Okay, welcome everyone to my graduation assignment presentation. My name is Muhammad Hazal Gumai and I'm going to present the importance of Halal Tourism element to Generation Z. And my student number is S1103369.
Good afternoon. So in this presentation, I will be presenting about my graduation assignment, which is about the importance of halal tourism element in affecting Muslim Generation Z in their travel decision making. There will be also discussion about literature review, research methods, my findings, of course, and also the conclusion. After that, I will be discussing also about the recommendation and the conclusion. Thank you very much.
So in the table of contents, I will be discussing about the introduction and then the literature review, the research methodology, the primary research findings, and finally the conclusion and recommendations. So the introduction, which is on the section 1. So for the introduction, we know that Islamic economy has played an important role in the global economy, and within the economic sector they apply the halal concept on the products or services sold, and halal tourism is becoming a trend in the tourism industry. And as we know that 60% of the Muslim populations in total are below 30 years old, which means that most of them, they are millennials and Generation Z. And majority Muslims preferred non-Muslim destinations on holidays, such as the European destination, or maybe United States, which are the countries that are non-Muslim majority. So the problem statement in this research would be the perception of halal tourism on non-Muslim countries and the possibility of young Muslim tourists, in this case is Generation Z, to not visit the country due to the absence of halal facilities, and then to encourage the business to diversify their products or services by offering halal facilities. And the main research question is how the importance of halal tourism elements affecting the Muslims Generation Z on their travel decision making. So the sub question are, for example, the first one is, what are the general characteristics of halal tourism according to Islamic principles? And the second one is, what are the push and pull factors on halal tourism elements affecting the decision making of Muslims Generation Z in visiting the area? And the objective of this research is to discover to what extent the halal tourism element is important for Generation Z before deciding to travel, in order to provide a beneficial recommendation for the hospitality business in accommodating their Generation Z Muslims customers. So the methodology that I'm going to use is qualitative, which means that most of my research is using the secondary data. Exploratory, which means that I'm studying or I'm exploring the research. I'm researching something that has not been studied very depth, and it's an inductive approach where the theory is built from the observation, and then I use the quantitative data collection methods when it comes to collection of questionnaires and surveys to other people. Well, actually, before the COVID, I was about to use the qualitative data to interview some of the experts, but unfortunately, due to the COVID-19, I have to change it into quantitative data collection methods, and it's a non-probability sampling. So the research significance for theoretical, this could provide a recommendation on the hospitality industry. For practical, this can be targeted to 4 different stakeholders. For researcher, it increases the knowledge about halal tourism, and for public in general, it will provide an overview of halal tourism in a destination. Problems and limitation when doing this research. The limitation is the secondary resources or the secondary data. that discuss specifically the relation between Generation Z and the halal tourism concept, the amount of time and accessibility to gain data that is also limited, the reliability of the answer from the respondent also has created another problem because some of them responded to me in a very random way. So some of the majority of them taking it seriously, but some of them are not, even though majority of the answer is right. It's really made sense. So the literature review, which is on the section 2, I talk about the basic concept of tourism. We know in the tourism itself, we have a tourist. And then I talk also about the geography and tourism movement, where tourists are traveling to which places that they love to travel to. And the tourism industry itself, which consists of transportation, tour operator, travel agents, attractions, and accommodation. And now the concept of halal tourism itself. First, I talk about the general guidelines for halal tourism, which includes the point of attraction, accommodation, F&B of providers, spa and sauna massage, and travel agents. And also I talk about the differences in conventional, religious, and halal tourism. So I make a comparison between those three types of tourism. I just want to make sure that my point is clear, that halal tourism is not it's not always religious, it's not always conventional. So halal is accommodating both of them. So I talk about these three different things. So if it's conventional, it's just a normal kind of tourism. If religious is just focused on religious people, but halal tourism is accommodating both. So that's what I make a point about. Now, we talk about the generations. We have Generation X, which they were born from the early 1960s to 1974. They grew up during big political events such as the fall of communism and the starting of the Cold War. Generation Y, they born between 1974 until the 1980s. They grew up and they grew up amid the rise of new technologies, which we know that in the 1990 and 2000 is the time of new technologies has been introduced. And the Generation Z, which is our targeted audience, they were born during 1990s, mid 1990s until the late 2000s, and they grew up as technology savvy, as since they grew up the technology, everything is already existed. So the consumer behavior is the behavior of final consumers. There are many factors affecting their behavior: the culture, the personal characteristic, social factor such as status and the hierarchy and economic situation. And the conclusion is that halal tourism is the diversification of a tourism concept. Society, which talks about status and popularity, is the biggest influence of the consumer behavior. And Generation Z is technology savvy, so popularity affecting the decision. And now research methodology. Research approach to discover the importance of halal tourism elements for Generation Z. And I'm using the interpretivistic philosophy, which is when the subjective world could be judged explicitly using explicit values. And as I said, inductive approach, the theory is developed after the findings. And now the research methods. I'm using the desk research on elements of halal tourism. And then I use online questionnaire for asking the targeted respondents. Now, the data collection analysis. For the desk research, I evaluate the credibility of the author, the publishers, and the relevancy of the information. And for the survey, the result is analyzed by using SPSS. And the ethical considerations, answering anonymously, so I don't ask for names. I'm just asking for the ages to know which generation are there, and also the nationality, so we could know that what kind of nationality, the people of the nationality that is religious or not. So we have, because we're targeting the Generation Z, so of course the date of birth is really important, I think, to get to know all of that. And the awareness that skip questions is not allowed. And literature review found is downloaded according to the standards. And yeah, we talk about the validity and reliability. Validity is measured by analyzing the literature review. Validity of survey responses is measured by specifying the questions, such as rate things from 1 to 10, or what age and what do you like. So the survey response is also very personalized, and the reliability is not applicable for qualitative research, as we know. And the limitation is profoundness of the respondent's answer, limited time for the research, and some respondent does not understand the questionnaire. So now the conclusion: inductive approach is used, supported by quantitative data collection methods. An ethical issue also has been considered. Now we came to the primary research findings. So the importance of halal tourism element, and as we see that halal food and drink is the main priority with a highest score of 4.44. Praying facilities is the second highest and considered very important. Islamic banking is not really important to the young Muslim generation. And the lifestyle of Muslim generation Z, as we can see here, that ensuring the halalness of the food consumed has the highest mean score of 4.39. Choosing halal restaurant is in the destination, and praying 5 times a day, that has a mean score of 3.92, and praying facilities considered important, and both males and female things, these are important, all of them. About the travel preferences, Europe is the main priority of destination. Asia is the second most chosen country. One of the reasons is pilgrimage in Mecca. And the push factors why they wanted to travel. The most chosen purpose is entertainment by 55 respondents, while the second top choice is 52 respondents, and pilgrimage is one of the least chosen by the respondents. And the pull factors, the highest mean score is public transport, and the weather had a mean score of 4.05, which almost equal to the point of attraction, and mostly females considered these elements as very important. And the interest in visiting halal travel destination, Muslim generation that still has a strong interest to visit a destination that applies the halal tourism concepts. And the decision to visit a non-Muslim country, 93 respondents are still willing to visit, and 7 other respondents prefer not to visit, and not concerning a lot about the facilities, but more into halal activity tool. And now the conclusion from this research is that Muslim generation Z still considers the halal element is important. Most of religious aspect is also applied in the young Muslim's life, and this doesn't hinder them from traveling to a non-Muslim country. So the conclusion and recommendation. The conclusion: the purpose of Muslim generation Z traveling is for entertainment and adventure. The most important activity is to stop by for praying, and the absence of the halal aspect did not hinder the young Muslims to travel to non-Muslim countries. And my recommendations would be: hospitality business in the non-Muslim countries provide halal facilities. Travel agents could diversify their product through halal activity tour, and restaurants must provide meat or chicken from Muslims' battery, except pork, of course, and hotel has a competitive advantage for offering halal facilities to the young Muslim tourists. So thank you very much. If you have any question, I would love to hear them from you. Thank you.